Today we got a D9R that operator stated just died in its tracks right here, just quit. Prior to this, I checked the fuel, made sure it had fuel, made sure the fuel filters were full. It was all primed up and all the oil levels were good, and that's good. It's a D9R ABK serial number. So first thing I do is get up here and try to start it and see what it does. And sure enough, it don't start. So the next step for me was hook my computer up and see if there's any codes and faults related to why it won't start and what's going on with this thing. So we get our ET adapter and we get our computer hooked up and see what we got. This computer screen's hard to see. Something's wrong with my dimmer. It's stuck in dim. I don't know. It's hard to see even without the camera on it. But we get in there. And keep in mind, this is a Huey style fuel system on this D9. It needs engine oil pressure to actuate the injectors along with electronics to fire the injectors. So whenever it don't want to start like this, the first thing that comes to my mind is crank without injection is on. But as you see here, it's got a couple codes, but it's nothing related to why the engine won't start. It's the engine, the fan, something or another. For either one of them, but either one of them codes will not keep this engine from starting. So when I pull this up and I crank it right here, it says no engine speed, and then when I crank it, it immediately changes to injection disabled. So that's what I'm thinking. Something's wrong with that no injection cranking. Now normally there's a fault whenever you have a problem with this, and these two plugs right here, there's one that's normally closed and one that's normally open. If you wanted to troubleshoot, you can unplug this one that's got a cap in it and plug it into the actual harness, and this engine will never start. It'll crank and crank. But usually there's a fault active with that no injection cranking fault is active, and it is not active on this, but stranger things have happened, so I thought it was worthwhile to check it out. So I get in here and get it off and give it a few good pull tests and check it out real good. The wires look good on it. Off camera there, I checked continuity between the two, and they're good, and everything was good on this end. Then after putting them all back together and getting all out, I thought, what the heck, let's just see if it'll start. And of course, it did not. I wasn't expecting it to. So I get back into the computer here and I'm looking, and I notice that actuation pressure is showing 260 PSI with the engine not running, nothing going on. It should be reading 0 and it's reading 260. You need roughly around 700 when cranking to open the injectors up for fuel to get in. And here I'm cranking and that number never changes. It stays 260 constant all the time. So I don't like that at all. And when I was cranking right there, I noticed that the engine oil pressure wasn't even registering on my laptop there. So I decided to hook up a manual gauge in here and see what we got. And we ended up getting 10 PSI with it cranking, which is, I mean, it's pumping, but it's not the greatest. This engine is war slap out. But I'm going to start with getting that actuation pressure sensor and getting that lined out, because I unplugged and checked all those sensors and they all seemed good. They all threw a fault when I unplugged each individual one of them. So I'm going to start with that sensor and then go from there. So follow along for part 2.